When he arrived at the gate, I went out to meet him and I said, "Good evening, Mr. Mandela. It's a great honour to have you at my home." And he said, "No, the honour is mine. Thank you for allowing me into your home. This is a great honour for me." And that tells you something about the man. He's just so dignified and gracious.
A humble and caring neighbour. Nelson Mandela moved into the plush, leafy suburb of Houghton in the late 90s. And it came as a surprise to those who already lived in the quiet area, as these residents never expected to share a road with a president.
When my wife first met him, I've got a picture here. She was all alone in the house on a Sunday afternoon when he arrived, and you know, this neighbourhood, like all neighbourhoods, was security conscious. So when somebody comes to the gate and says the state president would like to come in and see you, she was a little unsure, but she looked through the window and then she heard his voice.
Madiba often took walks down this street, at times paying surprise visits to his neighbours. And while he didn't exactly knock on their doors to borrow brown sugar, Mandela simply wanted to get to know those living around him.
One particular thing we talked about was the fact that my son was living in London. And he said, "Well, you must tell him to come back." And I said, "I do, Mr. President, I do, but, you know, perhaps if you phoned him and asked him, he would pay attention to you." So he did. He phoned him from here, from my living room.
With his move came fanfare. Buses would often pull up here with people hoping to get a glimpse of the statesman and his home, turning this subdued street into a noisy one at times. But Madiba's neighbours didn't mind, especially since, unlike most presidents, they were often welcomed into his home.
Brasser and Nelson, they were sat having a cup of tea, and I said to my son, it's a complete stranger to them, come in, share a cup of tea with us, you know. And my little one that was 4 then was sat on his lap. And I would have been really embarrassed, but my son gave me this story afterwards. You know how kids are, very natural and that. "Oh, Madiba, your nails are long." So Grassa chirps up and she said, "No, my dear, I'm going to cut them in the bath later." We found out after that he was on an aeroplane to the UK less than an hour later.
Amazed by his modesty, the Daltons say Madiba was a busy man who gave them his undivided attention, only wanting to know more about them and how he could assist.
I mean, he'd walk up and down the street, and if there was a gardener in the yard of somebody, he would stop and chat to them, and they sort of evaporating. Talk to the maids, he'd talk to anybody. You'd never believe he was president. Absolutely brilliant situation. How many countries do you think would, where the president would take time out to go and talk to the gardeners of the neighbours and what have you? No, absolutely. So special, so natural.
For the men and women next door, it's a particularly sad time, losing a hero and a neighbour. But they believe Madiba's indomitable human spirit will continue to bring warmth to 12th Avenue, Houghton.